This is me from Aussie Repair Guy, and starting to get a few subscribers now, and along with subscribers obviously comes comments. Now originally with my videos I planned to disable comments, and mostly as a result of the trolling I've received in the past and through most of my life basically. So yeah, I'm basically going to try a quick little video here and try and answer some of the comments that have been left. Now probably there's some people in here. I'll start with the first one. This is going to be a bit of a random bucket full of words thing, so you have to be patient with me here. The first one is about monetization. More than one person has really insisted that I monetize things. Now from the start, this channel, I've got another channel that is monetized and I've left it largely go quiet. It's mostly full of personal stuff now, and there's good reason for that. At the present, this current channel, the Aussie Repair Guy channel, it doesn't meet the criteria for monetization, so that ends that story right there. But let me tell you why I left my other channel go by the wayside. Once it's monetized, there's a whole bunch of things change. You're looked upon with a great more deal of scrutiny, and you've got to be really careful about copyright strikes and all sorts of other stuff. Plus there's a pressure to, especially the YouTube structure nowadays. Back about 10 years ago when I first started the channel, in fact I started the YouTube channel not long after YouTube actually was a thing, and didn't do anything for it for quite a while. But the policies back then were very different to what they are now. There was no ads on it at the time either. That all came about when people started getting worried about copyrights and infringements and all sorts of crazy stuff, as you would expect. Nowadays, the structure they use puts a great deal of pressure on me to perform and to keep up output and to produce, and that's stressful. And you'll hear a lot of professional YouTubers will quite often have a bit of a burnout, and there's whole like forums dedicated to YouTuber burnout and stuff like that. This rolls on to the next thing I want to talk about. I've been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Now, I've been dealing with some symptoms that possibly might be connected to that for about 13 years now, and that actually is what got me discharged from the Army Reserves. I didn't spend a great deal of time in there. I didn't do anything crazy, didn't shoot anybody. Don't ask me those questions, it's stupid. I signed up to try and continue on the family traditions, but which I got in, I succeeded in doing that, and not much else. Yeah, I had some problems and some side effects that I had to go and see a neurologist about. At the time, the MRIs that I had access to, the MRI machines, were not a great resolution, so it was difficult to spot. But basically, one of the vertebrae in the base of my neck started to demyelinate. The myelin sheath, the coating around the nerves of my spinal cord, started to be eaten away by my own immune system. And that wasn't officially diagnosed as multiple sclerosis at the moment. It could have been osteomyelitis, a whole bunch of other stuff. More recently, I went for a trip to the city, and during peak times, and it was actually to go to an awards ceremony for my wife, and yeah, I lost half the eyesight in my left eye. The top half just stopped working, and so yeah, I didn't know if I was going blind or what was happening, and things hurt. I couldn't look to the side. So jumping forward through a whole bunch of medical stuff, turns out that I had optic neuritis, which was actually an attack of multiple sclerosis. So that led to an official diagnosis. Since then, it's been discovered that I've got lesions on the brain and a whole bunch of other things. The diagnosis has landed at relapsing remitting MS. So if I'm going to have MS, that's the strain I want, but I don't really want it. So what that means is I need to avoid stress and high temperatures and heavy physical exertion. Which is really frustrating because for the last 8 years I've been a fire tower operator, and I've also done a lot of other work which involves going out, being physical, using my brain to think things, high stress jobs, high risk environments, lots of travel, lots of heavy physical exertion. I can't do those things anymore, and it drives me nuts. So this YouTube channel is basically a way to stop me going insane. I can do the things I can do in the time I can. You guys might see a half-hour video. There might actually be 3 weeks of work behind that, because I've done 10, 20 minutes on film, and then I've had to stop for 2 days and crash because things have caught up with me or things have been a bit stressful. In the meantime, I'm also making several applications connected to that, and there's like 70 or 80 forms I have to fill out. There's lots of paperwork, and that in itself is stressful. It's a bit ironic to get assistance or to get some financial help for some of these things. You've got to go through the very thing that is going to cause the problem. So I've got to take all that fairly carefully. So I don't have a lot of capacity for arguing or for doing stressful stuff. So if I get people trolling on the comments, I'm just going to turn comments off and walk away. But for those of you who do make constructive or appreciative comments, I really do appreciate that. You're restoring my faith in humanity a little bit. I really do appreciate that. But there's times where I'm just not capable of conveying that, or I just can't communicate, or it's basically if you take a 12-sided die from Dungeons and Dragons and roll that in the morning, I might roll initiative 1 some mornings and I just can't walk, or I can't think, or I can't do anything, and I end up having to stay in bed all day. I just can't function. And my wonderful wife really comes to the party every time. She's great. And look, and my apprentice, she's good some days. Other days she doesn't help the stress levels at all. But so this gives you a bit of an insight as to what's going on in here. So so keep that in mind when you do stuff and when you make comments. I'm not going to monetize the channel. It just adds a whole world of stress I don't want to know about. But yeah, I don't know what else to say. I'm trying to think of some other comments. I should have really printed myself a note here. There's been some other comments. I think I had one on the Amstrad the other day, somebody asking me for some advice about what could be the cause of the problem. I don't mind those comments. Sometimes they're in an area of knowledge that I don't know much about. And so, I go and do a bit of research, and it leads me down a whole different rabbit hole, and I don't mind doing that. It's kind of interesting. We could fall onto the Amiga videos. I used some hot glue in an Amiga. Well, didn't the world hang me out to dry about that one? And Amigas seem to be something that people have got a real cult following on, and there's a lot of purists out there. So I need to get it clear. I don't fix Amigas for a job. I don't do it professionally. I have 1 or 2 of them that were donated to me, and I'm doing what I can with $0 on them. So if you want to come along and buy them off me, I'll gladly talk to you. But you know what? Stop being critical of me using baling twine to hold my fencing gates on. And that's a reference from another line I'll explain some other time. So if people start picking on me about the Amigas, you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to throw them in the bloody hard waste recycle bin. I don't need the stress. So if you're going to troll me about that, you're going to contribute to the demise of the Amigas. Constructive advice, I'm all ears. I'm happy if you've got a better way of doing it and you present it in a great way. But if you dig back to some of my early videos on this channel, you'll see the kind of comment that I was dealing with when I first put them up. So not the way to get my attention. So I think I'm pretty well out of material on this, but I'm hoping that you understand a little bit more about what this channel's about. There's one last thing. Because MS generally doesn't get better, the prospect for the future is pretty much downhill for me. This channel's pretty much trying to be a bit of a legacy for my kids. I have 2 of them, one of which doesn't live with me for reasons I'm not going into here. I need to leave a bit of a legacy whilst I'm still functional and able to communicate these things. There could get to be a point where I can't see, or I can't use my hands, and I'm already some of the way there. My dexterity, and you'll see in a lot of my videos, I get uncontrollable shakes some days, or I can't communicate, I can't talk properly. That's probably only going to get worse, and it's going to get to be a point where I can't show them, or I can't communicate this information or knowledge. And my oldest daughter's probably not going to know too much about me, and she's turning 18 very soon. She'll be out on her own, so I've got to leave some sort of thing behind that they can look up if they can't find me or can't see me, or I'm just not around. So that's mostly the main reason for this channel, is just to leave a bit of me behind. So you know what, I don't need it to be stressful. But anyway, I hope you guys have, if you've sat through this long, I really thank you. But this is mostly just a Q&A for the people that have left comments and want to know what's going on. So I'm going to jump back to my normal programming now, and I hope you found this interesting. The next project that will be coming up and I'm working on in the next few days, this little meter here that I've had this meter for, well, it came out of my father's junk pile. Would it have been getting on to 28 years ago, nearly that long, and it's been in my possession since then. I used to use it as a wind meter. I've since discovered that it's actually a particle level meter out of an aircraft Geiger counter. So the project I'm doing is this spare bay over behind me here. I'm building a Geiger counter in there that will actually drive that meter and use it for what it was originally intended to do. So that'll be an interesting video. Again, I'm halfway through it right now, but it's taken 3 or 4 days because I've had to do a few things and I've had to take a break, and then I've had to do a few bits and I've had to take a break. It's getting to be tough going at the moment. The warmer weather is starting, and I've been a fire tower operator for 8 years, and I've had to give that up this year. That's still a bit stressful. I really enjoyed that job, but MS has meant that I'm just not fit for purpose anymore, and this year is going to be a bad year. Last year the neighbouring tower burnt down, and my co-worker, who I get along with very well, he only got out with about 10 minutes to spare. I had to evacuate my tower not long after that. It didn't burn down, luckily. They got on top of it before it got that far, but I still had to skirt around the edge of an active fire front to get out. And during that time, after I evacuated, somebody climbed up there, busted into the tower and stole all the equipment and everything, and damaged things and vandalized, as they do in fire towers, just because it's there. And my boss at the time basically victim blamed me. He said, you know, well, if you were telling people that you were a fire tower operator, then that's what they're up there for. You know, you can't tell people that's what you do for a job. And I have mixed feelings about that statement, but we won't go into that. But yeah, there's that. So basically that means that with the warmer temperature, MS is likely to be exacerbated, so my videos might drop off in frequency a bit as that happens. So yeah, be patient, guys. I'm not making any money out of this. I can't, and I'm not really able of doing that. I'm just not that productive these days, and it's for reasons beyond my control. So don't jump on my back and insist that I do things, because I just simply can't. So anyway, thanks for listening. I'm going to cut this short. It's turning into more of a ramble and a rant now. So we'll see you all in the next video, and hopefully it will be something like this, or one of the other videos that I've had sitting in the back burner for months. It'll be something interesting, I'm sure. All right, I'll see you all later.